And so now you started something called Nerd Church, JXN, which I'm guessing is for Jackson.
Jackson. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. How did you get into that kind of thing?
Yeah, I was playing Overwatch with some friends, like from our church every night of the week, basically. And the thought just kind of popped into my head, like, what if you could somehow turn this into church? And so that stayed there for a while. And then eventually my conference, so the Southern Michigan Free Methodist Churches, they started saying that we needed to plant new churches and it was okay to think outside the box. They brought in a movement called Fresh Expressions, if you've ever heard of that. And they more or less just teach people like whittle down what you think belongs in church, get it to the core biblical principles so that you can say this is in fact a church, and then create it and run with it. So all of our churches were being encouraged to start new initiatives like that. And when they start off, they're just kind of called apostolic initiatives. They have to kind of graduate toward a church, which in our conference, we haven't hit that point yet. COVID especially got in the way with the pandemic and
Mm.
all that. But we launched it at a Comic Con. We got a booth, and just kind of told people who we were, and people started checking it out. And it was one of the. It's been going on for about 5 years now. I think we just had our birthday, our fifth birthday, like 2 weeks ago. So.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a group that gets together around nerdy type things. It's the longest version of church that people don't get bored of that I've been a part of. So doors open at 5:30, 6 to 7:30 we play board games, or if you're online, it's usually cross-platform video games, and then at 7:30 we get into whatever spiritual conversation. People offer up a theme, and we'll talk about that for 60 to 90 minutes, but it's conversational, giving everybody kind of the chance to speak into it. Because you know, as nerds, we want to have an opinion somewhere in the midst of
Oh, yes.
the conversation. Yeah.
Now, is
So
that a sorry, I was going to ask, is that a weekly service, monthly, or how's that go?
Yep. It's every Monday, from 5:30 to 9, and then we hit up Applebee's after, so till like 10:30,
nice.
11. So it's like 6 hours of just hanging out, and people love it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Nathan.
That's actually sounds really fun. But with a bunch of nerds there, and you're saying you have like this large group. Do you get any pushback from like going to the cons and reaching out? Is that ever um, a thing that happens? That I feel like that's just one of those things people are just looking about. They see church, nerd church, and they both sides could tend to have some type of pushback.
Yeah. So we only did one because we had our first year and then the pandemic hit, and
Ah,
the con that we had in Jackson is run by my next door neighbors. So like they're not Christian as far as I know, but like we have a good relationship. And I was like, hey, I know this is weird, but do you think we can buy a booth? Is that weird for you guys, or how do you feel about that? And they're like, no, yeah, go for it. So we set it up, and people would come to our booth and play our Mario Maker level, and then they could check out all of our books on Tolkien and Lewis and Zelda and all these other things. And just kind of we were trying to build their trust. Like we're not pretending to be nerds. We're really nerds, and go from there. So we didn't have any pushback at that event. Um, so yeah, it's been pretty good.
Do you find that I guess the nerd subculture of Christianity is maybe underrepresented in modern day churches, not allowed to really exist, depending upon maybe um, doctrine, etc.
Occasionally I think it gets demonized a
mm,
little bit. You have for example, we've got one guy who came to our Comic Con immediately, came to our booth at that event, immediately plugged into it, and then uh, was just talking about how like at all the churches he's been to, he was always told to like keep this stuff out of church. That's not for here, and don't be yourself, like that kind of thing.